So hang on.
Got it.
Okay, so real quick, just say present or here, just so we have it for the record since we're on Zoom. Donna
Yes.
Bove, Don Delaquilla, Don Delaquilla, are you here?
Great, Donna Bove. We're going to get started. We have a problem getting in, but if you go to the Zoom app and put the meeting ID number in and the passcode, you should be set. Thanks.
Don, you're on mute. If you can just unmute and say that you're here for the record.
I am here for the record.
Okay, Joe Pulcini,
I am present.
Dinesh Patel,
I am here.
Tony Batrimus,
Here.
Andrew Legnani,
I am here.
Greg Starr. Okay, Donna, you may begin. You have a quorum.
Okay, yep. Okay, audience of citizens, anyone? Okay, thank you. Well, I know Doug has joined us. I saw him. But Doug, if you could just hold on, we'll get through a couple of things and then we'll go into the discussion. But can I have a motion on the approval of minutes that were handed out for our last meeting, December 9th?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from last month.
I'll
Second.
second it.
Thank you.
Second it.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone nay? Okay, passes.
Who was out of the people that are here? Who was not at the meeting last month? Andrew?
That would be myself and Joe.
Yeah, I was not there last month.
Okay.
This is
Andrew.
Joe.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, consent agenda. Jen sent out the field reservation policy. Hopefully you all had a chance. There's some wording in red that to add to it based on our discussion at the last meeting. And you can see it written there. All lights at tennis courts and basketball courts will be turned off for the season on the first Monday in November in section, and again, it's found in section 2, blah, blah, blah. The other thing, Jen, is in red is the reservation dates that were added. So this consent agenda will include the reservations.
No, those are just always in red in the policy. So those don't.
Okay.
I
I
just
thought
always
they were
put them-
always there. Okay. all
Yeah,
right.
they're always there in red, so they stand out.
Okay. So the consent agenda will only include what is written in item A. So can I have a motion to accept consent agenda 3A?
I'll make a motion to accept consent agenda item 3A.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Don. Any discussion on that? Again, we discussed it last week or last month, so
I just
Okay.
have one question.
yes, go ahead.
As far as it's just the tennis courts, and we're not including if we're going to get pickleball courts on there, that it's not going to be the same idea, or are we going to revisit that later once that's all up and running?
Well, if we get pickleball courts with lights, we could add it at that point, I guess, right? Everybody
Okay.
okay with that? Yeah, okay. All right, any other further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so it's unanimous for the people that are here excluding Greg Starr. Okay. Okay, that being said, Doug, thanks for hanging on for a couple of minutes and the confusion in the beginning. Everybody, this is Doug Solick. Doug is in charge of facilities for our town. And we asked him to join us, based on what transpired with the bathroom renovation at Sage, Scalise, I should say. And, I've talked to Doug as well, tried to convey, some comments and thoughts that some of the commissioners had. But I also just want to start off by saying, I think that generally the feeling is that when there's a project that involves the parks and fields, we, the commission, should be involved right at the beginning in the planning stages. Obviously, these things are on a capital budget list, And when the funding is available, whether from the town or elsewhere, that's when the town jumps on it and moves on it. So at that point in time, though, we would like, and I'm hopeful that we can all agree, that facilities, Parks and Rec, Public Grounds, and the commissioners, we could all kind of talk and bring it out at a meeting, kind of discuss what's going to be done, the planning, because I really do believe, based on our commissioners' backgrounds and involvement in other areas, that they can help, I'll say, sell it if there's selling to do to the public, because they're working with the public on a volunteer basis. And they can also update them as things are happening or prior to happening, so to avoid any surprises. We all know, as we look back at this project, there are lessons learned and all that. But I think if I had to say, that's what I would hope would come out of this discussion, that's what we would like, is be involved from the planning stages, get updated, period, like we're updated now for any major project or any project happening at the Parks and Fields, be updated throughout our meetings. If necessary, Doug could come to a meeting or whatever. And I do know that those three departments, Park and Rec, Facilities, and Public Grounds, they do talk amongst themselves. No one's in an island and all that, as these projects go. But I do think that it's important for us to be involved. There's value to be added. With that, Doug, I'm going to hand it over to you, and maybe you could just summarize. We do appreciate the timeline and the summary that you provided. That was very, very helpful in today's package. But, we had a discussion. Maybe you just want to open up, and then I'll open it up to some questions or comments from the commissioners, okay?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your time and for all your volunteer time that you serve for the community. One thing that did come up that I forgot to include, I apologize, was the project cost was $120,315. That was the low bid on the public bid that we did. So that was the total project cost. We did have a little bit of a credit in the end of about $3,000 that came back to the town, all said and done per plans and specifications. So if there's any specific questions or related to the timeline, the project, the materials, any concerns on timing or mistakes you feel we made, we certainly want to correct that for any future projects.
Doug, as far as getting us involved at the planning stages, do you have any issue with that? I mean,
No, not at all. No, we're used to working with the Public Building Commission and multiple town departments on projects. So the more the merrier is fine, and that's great to make sure everybody's aware of what's going on in the beginning to avoid this in the end. But everyone has their involvement at one point or another. So moving forward, we can just send out an email. We can put a project on the agenda before it takes off, just so everyone's aware of it. And then, similar to what we do with the Public Building Commission at their monthly meeting, any updates can be provided to the commission during that time.
okay, thanks. Tony, you want to open up with any comments, questions?
Sure, Doug, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. And I think it'll be very helpful for us to kind of talk about this tonight and get the questions answered. So again, I appreciate your time. I appreciate the memo you sent out with the timeline. I had not seen any of that before. And I think that really comes down to the real nut of the whole issue that we had, is that we didn't know any of this at all. And I think the first that I found out that the bathrooms were being renovated was the day that I actually hung up some banners for the Booster Association on the fence. And that was, I think, August 30th. With the following weekend, the whole thing starting with the men's and women's soccer jamborees. Can I ask you, were the bathrooms working before the project was started?
Yeah, they were in their current state, working as well as they were
Right.
all along. And that was, I apologize if the project schedule that we were provided didn't go out sooner, but in conversations with Steve and John about the timing of this and school athletics and all the other field users, the goal all along on the project schedule, the intent was to always start after summer programs and then try to squeeze it into that window before the fall programs. The concern to do it in the true off season of the winter was the temperatures. It's an unheated area with the painting and winter conditions, any additional costs. So we knew we were up against a tight schedule. We didn't set ourselves up to fail, but based on what happened in the last couple of years post-COVID, we did run into that issue with procurement of the plumbing materials, which set us back about 6 weeks. So I think if it wasn't for that, we would have been fine. The contractor was properly staffed, and we can only, as you know, work so many people in that area at the time. We can't have the plumber walking in while they're painting and et cetera. So he did have a it seemed like a responsible schedule, and everything was on track until he got the bad news. He was told all along, which is why we felt confident we could still do it, was that, yep, everything's coming. I have a confirmation from the distributor, the manufacturer, we're on track. And then he, in the 11th hour, received that notification that really threw him also, that he says, hey, I don't know how to tell you this, but it's not coming. And that's when we said, oh, okay.
And at that point, the bathrooms were already disassembled?
Correct. We held off the demo as long as we could, and certainly coordinating with the contractor says, listen, I'm not going to take your bathrooms offline until I'm ready to go and I have all my materials. But when we got up against the clock and the schedule, he says, I have to start at some point, or otherwise I won't meet your schedule, because I need the time that I need to do the demo, to do the paint, the ceiling, the electrical, et cetera. So I got to get going. And he waited as long as he could, knowing that he had confirmation at the time from his distributors and the manufacturer that everything would be received in accordance to the proposed schedule. So it really was, everything was on track until we got the plumbing delay. So that's what really threw us back. So we, sooner or later we had a launch, we had to let the train leave the station, and that threw us in the very end, which has caused the ultimate delay. The most important thing of the project was some plumbing fixtures. So
Mhm.
Can I just say one thing?
Go ahead, Jen.
It's Jen. So at the February where are we in? 2021 commission meeting, it was mentioned, that was the meeting that we had all our field users at, and that was one of the points of topic point that we went over, and we did say that Scalise bathroom renovations were happening, that we were going out to bid in March 2021, and the construction would likely be during the summer. I talked about how we were going to try to keep them open for nutmeg games or the lineman challenge, but I did talk about that at the February commission meeting.
Okay. Okay, so we talked about it, you mentioned it, you brought it up to us, and then, somewhere along the line, as month after month went by, we never really circled back to it. So, it would have been brought up or discussed again. So again, it's just.
I think until I got the update from Doug right around Labor Day that things were being delayed because of the fixtures, I mean, that's immediately when we brought it to the commission, is once we knew we had the delay coming.
Mhm.
And like I said, since then, we have added projects onto the agenda with the hope that until everything is completed and done and accepted, signed off, we continue to follow it. What obviously didn't happen in February, from February meeting through August, is getting updated. When are we going to do it? When are we going to start? We're going to start August 1st. That didn't happen. I don't believe, John, but that would have helped and at least avoided the surprise. I know all of us are very busy. Whether it's volunteering or working at the town, these things slip. That's why we want to make sure these projects are on the agendas, so that we are following these things every month and understanding the update. I think that will go a long way. Tony, you got further questions?
So you guys decided you're gonna try and squeeze it into that 45-day timeline, the beginning of August to the middle of September, and even though that would start biting into the sports seasons.
correct. I think the goal was to have it turned over substantially complete for the first home football game, I believe, was the intent.
Okay,
That was why we, in coordination with everyone, looking at the field use and the schedules, that was
Yeah,
really
we're-
our longest stretch of time to do construction with, I hate to say the least amount of impact, but where we'd have the most amount of people in the stands, on the field, not necessarily, they wouldn't be available for practice, but they would be open and running and turned back over for a large crowd gathering for a game.
now that we had this happen, and it affected the highest use sports season of the year at Scalise. And can we look at it and say, that's something that we would try and really stay away from? Unless there's, an emergency need so obviously things break and we got to get them fixed. But if we're doing an upgrade, I mean, I see it like that upgrade could have been done in the spring, could have been done this coming summer, without it affecting. I mean, we were going back, that was return to play with fans in the stands for the first time in 2 years. And, that real, not having the bathrooms and having to use portables, was bad. It was really bad,
Sure. Understood. Yeah, we, unfortunately, I hate to keep bringing up COVID, but we did see some delays once the funding was in place to when we started design. Prior to when the design took place back in the fall of 2020, during and prior to that, the town, what we were dealing with the COVID issues was a little difficult. So we lost, I think, certainly recognize we lost some timing on our end to get it designed and bid sooner. And I think, yes, to your point, it would have been great to do it late winter, early spring, have it ready to go for the start of the summer. But then we were also concerned on the back end, if we were to delay it to this calendar year of 22, any additional costs, would the contractor hold his price? Can we store things? And the other flip side of it too is when that building's open, and I mean, Steve and I talk, or Jen and I, we get an email pretty much after every weekend about a toilet or a sink that's leaking, doesn't flush properly. So we were kind of optimistic,
I agree.
eager to take the risk of, have a few weeks of inconvenience with the portable restrooms. But in the end, if we could still salvage some point of the season with the renovated facility, it would be better just to show everybody that we got it done this year and use something of it. So we put a lot on the line, and I hate to say we failed, but we certainly provided longer inconveniences or more than we intended.
Did you go to any football games this fall?
I heard them, but I didn't actually make it
So,
there.
yeah, so Doug, this is Don, and I'm an assistant volunteer on the
Hi, Don.
football team. Hi, how are you? Yeah, so let me jump in just as as Tony opened up that opportunity for me. Yeah, so big miss. I literally had to, in several different occasions, personally walk opposing teams outside the fence to go use the larger portalette by the where the referees go in, and then do that. So there, it was an inconvenience, right? It was an inconvenience. It was an inconvenience for our fans, and it was an inconvenience for our team, along with people coming in. So it was definitely an inconvenience. Now, the one thing that I can just say, is that, let's face it, you guys that work for the town see each other all day long, talk to each other. That's great, right? But many of us who are volunteers sitting on this committee, we have full-time jobs. So what I just would like to have from the takeaway from this conversation is that, if you can please make sure on a go-forward basis, any project that is involving, Park and Rec, come to a meeting, as Donna mentioned earlier. I think Tony said it as well. If we can just get that commitment from you, to me, that would be very helpful. I appreciate you coming tonight, appreciate the timeline. But, if we could just get that commitment, at least from my perspective, I'd be happy. So thank you for your time.
Sure, understood, and I have no problem doing that at all. That's all part of our job, and so yeah, I apologize for not coming sooner or bringing any more information forward at the time during the project. Certainly want to learn from it.
Thank you.
And the other thing, Doug, if there, and Jen and Steve, if there's ever a need for us to meet because of an issue before our monthly meeting, I'm sure we can get a quorum from these people because everybody's a volunteer. They want to do the right thing. So just feel free. Hey, guys, we got to meet on this issue. It's going to be quick. Doug's going to join us, Jen, Steve, they'll update us on what's going on if that should ever happen on any of the projects. So we'll throw that out.
Sure, and always feel free to. I know your schedules are tough and after work, but if it's ever easier after hours when you get home from work to do a site visit to see something to understand it better in person versus a meeting with reports or emails or pictures, certainly we can always meet on site too.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Are you aware now that we're into the new year? Do you have any projects that you know of that facilities are going to be working on for Parks and Rec?
To my knowledge, I just heard at this past Tuesday's Board of Finance meeting that the grant that we've all been waiting to be signed from the state DEP regarding a few projects, Sage Park, and then I believe, I'm not sure if Percival was involved with that, Percival Field. But we had a committee of what was decided to do with the grant funding, and the projects were earmarked out of what was discussed. So I have to pull it up, but I know lighting at Sage is part of that grant. So certainly once we have it, like I said, I just heard it Tuesday night. Finance was working on that with everybody up at the state and some other elected and appointed officials. So once we get the email internally on our department level with Jen and Steve, and we know more, certainly, yes, that'd be the time to start discussing what we'll be involved in on our end would be the lighting, working with Steve and Jen at the field.
Okay. We do get updates from Jen on that monthly. She does bring it up about the state of Connecticut grant. And we know some of the things that are part of that project. And we know that it's going to affect field usage too. And we'll just have to try and, really just be open about it and talk about it. So we know, how it actually affects users and visitors to Sage and to any other park, whatever.
Right.
So,
Sure.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I know directly would be I believe the scoreboard for the football field,
Right.
the fiber and the technology infrastructure. And then we're looking at all the lighting at the 3 fields within Sage, but I believe it was narrowed down to softball field, then Scalise Field, based on the priority of the infrastructure and the age of it.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from any of the other commissioners? Okay. Jen, Steve, or staff as well, any questions? Good. All right. Hey, Doug, thanks very much for joining us. We appreciate the time. I think, obviously we all appreciate the work that everybody does at the town to maintain the fields and parks. And it's really communication and improving it and following it through so that we can get to the users and let them know what's going to happen. So with that, I thank you very much, especially joining tonight. And thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Doug.
No
Thanks,
problem.
Doug.
I hope you get some good feedback from everyone, the end users, that in the end that it was certainly an inconvenience and some lessons learned, but I hope now that it'll help to start minimizing some of the complaints and the issues we had when we actually need the
With the older
facility.
ones, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Was long overdue, so I'm glad it's done. Absolutely.
Thank you very much for all your time and your commitment to the commission and to the community. So we'll look forward to the next project and learning from it.
Okay. Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Doug.
it. Take care.
Have a good night. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Okay, great discussion. Appreciate everybody's time and efforts on that. Okay. Steve, monthly report?
Can you guys all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. So we had our first snowstorm of the year. We had a couple of hiccups here and there. We've got some new people in department, some new people in machines, but for the most part, it went really smoothly. We finally got the contractor in, and the sway fund has been repaired and properly installed back at Friendship Place. we've got over the last couple of years, more and more people have been walking out at Timberland, and we maintain both the walkway that goes up to the Chamberlain Highway and also the access road that leads down towards the pavilion. We spent the better part of a week raising the canopy out there to actually be able to, so people can actually go out there and walk more often without branches slapping them in the head. And then another part of us is we take care of all these town cemeteries. I believe there's 13 of them scattered throughout town. And after the season, we go in and we do some tree trimming, some pruning, just to get them up. And we also work with the cemetery committee on that. So that pretty much concludes the Park and Rec report.
Okay, any questions, comments?
Thanks for saying that about the cemeteries. Honestly, I had no idea that you guys did that.
Yep.
So
Oh, you just thought they went back there to drink beer, right, Tony?
I don't know. Well, no, Donnie, now come on.
Just
You know,
teasing.
I mean, I just had no
teasing.
idea, so I'm really glad to know that you guys are doing it. My only question is I had been up at the pavilion at Sage, I think 2 weeks ago walking, and do you know there's a portable toilet out there right near the pavilion?
Yeah, we've been in contact with United Site Services trying to get that one picked up, and also the one from the flu clinic that was held at the senior center. And they have not been responsive to come back and get it.
Why is that?
Don't know. The excuse we got of the flu clinic was it was rented from the Connecticut Health District, and they were waiting for their permission to pick that one up. But we will reach back out to Susan tomorrow morning and see what the status of that is.
I just thought it was weird that it was there because even my wife's like, well, maybe they leave it there all winter long so people can use it. You can go in a nice frozen, portable.
Yeah.
Sit on that. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the Boy Scouts had a camp out there at the end of November. And that's when it was relocated back there, and they've just never picked it up.
Mm-hmm. That Eagle Scout that had done the barbecue pits in that pavilion, they came out really nice. I mean, that pavilion looks really great for a party. So if anyone ever wants to use it for there, I mean, it's great. I had not seen it in person before, so it looks good.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, really nice.
Really nice. Yep. Good job, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Dog park, leash ordinance. Jen, you want to give an update or?
Yeah, I mean, the update is everything was approved at council. It goes into effect February 1st. So yeah, there is the meadow is what they're calling it at Bicentennial. For 6 months will be considered leash free. You have to put your dog on a leash to bring it into that part of Bicentennial, but once you are there for the next 6 months from February 1 to whatever the 6 months is, will be leash free. And then that's going to give them time to try to find another location for some form of dog park. I know Steve is working with his department and town manager on some signage, especially for that area, but also throughout town about dogs on playing fields, etc. So we're trying to get all that done. But like I said, it does not take effect till February 1st.
Right. And Steve and Jen, though, within those 6 months, and I actually mentioned this at the council meeting, the one probably a month and a half ago, as well as to Arosh, that it's really important to get our commission involved if they're really seriously considering Pistol Creek, just to make sure that, our thoughts in the memo that we provided them in July are reconsidered, like fencing it in, things like that to protect the programs that we have going out there, as well as the coordination with the schools that use it. Just a thought, on at Pistol Creek, the Middletown area, is there an area down that way as you go up the hill and then down that they could use to run dogs?
There's not enough land. Most of the land there is owned by a private contractor.
It's gone, I'm sorry, gone by what?
Most of the land to the left of Pistol Creek up towards the Middlefield and Atkins Road is owned by a private contractor.
But the golf course crosses the street, and I think it was the 10th hole. It runs along, what the hell's the name of the main street there? It runs along the street, and then you go down a hill, and there's some water down there. There was another hole, And Middletown, and there's a housing development on the right-hand side. You know, so
Yes.
I'm talking about up the hill, across the street, that main street.
It's Atkins Street.
Is that Atkins? Okay.
Yep.
All right. So the 10th hole, I mean, that's a long hole. Not that that's probably a good area for dogs because it's right on the main street. But as you go down from the 10th hole, probably to the 11th, it was a par 3. Then there's water. You hit some water and you kind of come back. But there was, and again, I don't walk back there, so I don't know what it looks like right now, but I used to.
So if you pull out of Pistol Creek and you come to the stop sign where you take a right onto Atkins Street,
Yeah, right.
everything from the curb on your right-hand side to the left is all Middletown property. The town of Berlin owns nothing.
Okay, so that's all Middletown at some point from the 10th hole, so you can use it.
Correct.
Okay. Well, maybe a discussion with Middletown, to see if they would be interested in doing it. Again, I'm just throwing this out. You can think about it. I don't want to belabor it with everybody here, but I'm, again, just trying to think of an area that has some good parking. So, okay. All right. But anyway, please keep that in mind as they go forward. We're not always in tune with what's going on with the council and things like that. So we'll, kind of keep this dog part on the list, on the agenda, just so that we keep reminding ourselves, because 6 months will go pretty quickly. So,
You know how they don't
Hey,
want,
Donna, it's
go ahead, Tony.
go ahead, Tony.
you know how they don't want the meadow at Bicentennial being called a dog park. Did you see that post on the Berlin Buzz that somebody said?
Yeah. Oh, it's
Is
crazy.
there a dog park in Berlin?
Yeah. Yeah. And then people got into, there's no dog park. Well, there's the meadow,
Right.
I actually answered.
Thanks for responding, Donna. You're the only, you responded, but then
I did respond.
Then they came
Oh, you
back.
did?
at
I
you.
didn't see that.
Yeah, I did. I did.
and-
But then, then they take off on the dog park, and of course, then they go off on other things and the dog poop and bullshit. Excuse my French, but yeah. All right, Greg, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, hey, Steve. So, I mean, is the town or Roche looking for you to try to or Jen to try to identify places where they could have a dog park?
So about a year ago, we took a ride around town through several properties, looking at where it would best be suited. We tried Kensington Orchards, we tried the community garden. They revisited Bicentennial, and the largest open parcel of property we have would be Pistol Creek in the center fairway, with limited access to most people that usually walk around the outer perimeter. And that's where that suggestion came from, by also making sure that we were far enough away from Debbie's program that she runs out at Pistol Creek.
Yep. So is that what they're looking at now, or they're just continue to look or identify other places?
I believe the area they like and that has been identified is Pistol Creek. I just think it's in the beginning stages of exactly how they would make it or have it become a dog park.
So who's charged with the responsibility to do that? Who owns it?
I
The
believe it
next step.
falls on the town manager.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And again, I impressed, everybody's free to do the same, but go back to our July memo where we talked about if you decide on Pistol Creek, because the parking is there. That's the only place that I believe has been identified that has some sufficient parking for people. But, we need it fenced in. I mean, we said that in our memo, and, to have it not fenced is, not a good thing for the programs. Deb, I think you mentioned your kids go across the street. So it's not like they're not using across the street at all. And, they are using that area. So anyway, so we should follow it. Okay, Percival, soccer?
Stephen and I, between the holidays, had our first working meeting to begin work on the RFP. We have another meeting scheduled next week. We are really trying to buckle down and, really fine tune the RFP to make sure we're getting exactly what we want for architect and design. So then it'll be easier to do the construction RFP with them. But we are, taking our time. We want to make sure it's done right this time.
Did
Go
you
ahead.
meet with the architect?
We met with the architect. This is
Okay.
not the architect we hired. This is an
Right.
architect we have worked with in the past. And,
Yeah.
you know, he provided some insight, which was helpful based on the documents we already had, but we can't just hire him. We have to go out to
Sure.
bid. So we have to be careful on how much information we can talk to him about.
So basically, we're going to be on a timeline for the fall. That's the game plan.
I think, Stephen, right? We want to do construction.
That is our target, yes. If we can
Alright.
get everything to fall into place, that's what we'd like to do.
Okay.
Funding will probably
Thank you.
funding is going to be big.
Okay.
So the RFP that you're going out for is to hire the architect, and then there'll be another set of documents to hire the construction firm once that's
Correct.
all approved. Okay.
Correct.
Let me just chime in there while we're talking about Percival is they've, Jim Mahoney in lieu of open space has appropriated $15,000 to connect the path that goes from the Berlin Police Department up to the backside of Percival Soccer. And that construction will hopefully happen if this weather continues the way it is, cold and really cold and the ground is frozen. It'll be sooner than later because we can drive the trucks across the field. Earth Contractors has been chosen as the contractor to do the work. It's going to be a nice footpath where you come out of the fence and start going down the hill where there was really steep. They're going to try to level that out so it's not such a vigorous drop off. And then right after the bridge, and I don't know if you got to see it after the Eagle Scout put that in, there's going to be some trees so everybody actually knows the curvature of the path because some of the kids are starting to walk into some neighbor's property.
Ah. Okay. And with the grant that they got for the Knights of Columbus, and they're going to demolish Knights, will that interfere with anything we got going at Percival during the spring or summer?
I don't think so.
I don't think
It's
so.
far enough off the baseball field and everything, but okay.
I think because it's a construction zone, they will have to set up temporary fence around the whole entire perimeter of the property, anywhere there'll be any machines moving.
Okay, yeah. Okay, thanks. Any other questions on Percival? Okay, field users meeting.
Do you want the state of Connecticut grant update that I have?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That would be
That's
nice.
okay.
Yes.
We're working on getting, Kevin's working on getting the legal sign off with Deep. We do have a contact at the Attorney General's office. So once it gets to the Attorney General for legal sign off, it should move pretty quickly. The problem right now is many state workers are working only a few days in the office and many days from home. So things are just back to moving slowly. But there is a back and forth. There is someone responding to us and making progress.
Okay. Field users-
Any sense
Oh, go ahead.
for timing? I'm sorry. Any sense for timing, Jen? Best guess?
No, Kevin was really hopeful to have it signed in January, at the beginning of January. We have made progress now that we have everything pretty much approved on our end. I think we just need the signatures, but like I said, just getting the state to move it along is the hardest part. So, I mean, he was hopeful for beginning of January, so my hope is maybe in the next month, but that's just me guessing.
All right. So just one other thing. So basically we get the money approved. That's great. What does that mean for Boscoglio Field, the high school field? And
So
putting turf-
we can't do anything until we have funds, basically. Stephen, do you want to kind of walk through when we would be able to do things based on when we need geotech and everything?
Exactly. Our ideal goal was to have the geotech completed after the football season and the field was put to rest. Therefore, we would have been able to go out. By that time, we've already would have had an architect. We would have been able to go out for design services. And at the end of the school year, which happens to fall on January 9th next year, June 9th next year, we would have been able to break ground and the field probably would have been completed by the middle of September. With all that being said, there's no other place that we're going to be able to relocate Berlin High School football, track, Berlin youth football. So we're going to fall into the same bunch that we will probably do the geotech in the spring, go out for design services, and we'll actually get better prices. But I don't see that field being started to be constructed on until June of 2023.
Okay.
This way, just so we're all in the open first, this way, no single sport will be displaced. If we do it during the spring, look, soccer is,
Right.
Correct.
Track will not have a home. They will not have any home meets in 2023. So that's where we're stuck, and there's not going to be enough time for a full renovation to be done in the 8 or 12 weeks that vacation that the kids take their summer break. And
Once-
you know,
once
it's
the
always
fund-
up for discussion, but
yeah,
that's just-
once no, you're right. We got to protect.
Oh,
know,
th-
the
yeah, thank you.
users, so-
Thank you for saying that and thinking that through. I appreciate that. That's
The,
good.
Agreed.
once the funds are approved and we know, we've got it, then there'll be a project schedule for all
Mhm.
these things and we can go through it at that point in time and make sure, everybody's in the loop and we'll have copies of it. So, okay.
Okay,
And-
I'm gonna excuse myself now, Don, if that's okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Hey,
Right.
Don,
Right, Don.
Yes,
Don,
yes.
do me a
See you,
favor. though.
Don.
Just,
Good night, Don.
I'm
you know what?
listening, Don.
No, I'll contact you tomorrow. No big deal.
Okay,
Okay,
good
thank
night,
you.
everybody. Thank you.
Good
Bye.
night. Yeah.
Thanks, Don.
Good night, Don.
and can I just add one other thing about the geotech? Because we learned this at Percival.
Sure.
And I think Greg Starr can talk about this, is what a geotech is they're going to identify 25 or 30 spots throughout that field that have to go out and bore down holes. So every 12, 18 feet, there's going to be a hole that's 4 feet deep that we then have to fill with topsoil and hope the compaction that somebody doesn't trip, fall, and break an ankle. That was our goal of hopefully getting it done at the end of the football season. So that gave us all winter long for settlement to go out there periodically through the spring where it wasn't getting a lot of use by anybody and fill those divots in. So that's a huge concern.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like you thought it
Thank
through
you,
enough.
Steve.
You're gonna push the whole thing off for a year. So, I mean, just everything that you were planning on doing this year, you can just do it for next year.
Right.
Hey,
Yeah.
Steve, so if they're boring holes, is the goal that putting dirt in there might, move the rocks a little bit, or? We know the
Which
stuff at Percival.
we've already bored the holes at Percival. We did
Okay.
that last winter,
Okay,
about a year ago now.
all right. So are you still gonna try to put topsoil on different areas there?
At Percival after the geo boring or during construction.
No, when everything, to top everything off at the end because, there are some areas where the rocks were, could be protruding or it could be a little bit below the surface. I think the original plan was to put several inches of topsoil on it. If I remember.
Right. We don't have a plan as of right now because the plan that we received, Jen and I turned it down because
Yeah.
Jen did not believe it covered the areas that needed to be addressed.
Okay,
So we are going back out to start all over from scratch again to make sure that we're actually getting a soccer field and not a drainage system.
Yep.
It's not a road, it's an athletic field, and we made a mistake.
okay, no worries. Like the beard.
Thank you. 44 years.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Field users meeting. Next
Okay,
meeting.
so am I on mute? No. Okay, so every year we invite the field users to our either January or February meeting. We were trying to get paperwork out earlier, so I've actually already sent my annual field user email out just because we wanted to make sure we got all the information out. There's some changes. We wanted to make sure they were all aware of it. Steve and I were talking, and over the last couple of years, we haven't received a great attendance at the field user meeting. And we were just thinking that we have a really good rapport via email and phone calls with all of our main field users, and we just don't think it's necessary to invite them to a meeting. We were able to put all the information we needed that Steve and I needed to get out to them through an email, through a handout that lists all the price changes, the new field reservation form that lists all the dates and deadlines and everything. And I think we were able to convey all the information that we needed to over the last 3 years just through an email this year. And we've already had people responding and asking questions, and it's been a great dialogue. So.
Okay. Fair point. For Little League, have they changed leadership there?
That was my next moment to talk about. Little League has, I don't know if he's technically president. They elected a new vice president at their recent meeting, and the next day, Mr. Pettit submitted his resignation as president. So I don't know if their new vice president has turned into president or if he's just acting vice president or acting president right now. But I talked to Mr. Pettit on Tuesday. He gave me the contact information for the new person in charge. And I've emailed him and I'm waiting to hear back, but I've emailed him all the information to introduce myself, to introduce Terry, invite him to the office, and just kind of gotten the word out to him.
And who is it?
George Satalino. Is it George? Stephen?
George
That's
Satalino.
his first name?
That is correct, George Satalino.
Okay.
And I believe I think they're going to try to run this year without a president. And
Yeah.
George is just going to stay as the vice president to see how it goes and which way they want to go with Berlin baseball.
So, so Jen, when you're talking with the field users, maybe what we do, make this a transition year, I'll throw this out to the commissioners, is that we offer to have the meeting, you know, for them to come in February, for those that would like to, but maybe put Little League kind of in a special and just say, we realize this is your first year. Normally, you know, Bill Pettit has come to our meetings in February. You know, certainly if you'd like to come and meet the commissioners, I'd like to meet, I don't know, George, I don't know if any of the other commissioners know him. But maybe, you know, we can kind of do a special thing for Little League and just understand, you know, and let them know, you know, we're here. And if they have any questions, we can listen to them.
Yeah. We also have a new president in Berlin Youth Football, but that happens every 2 years, and that's part of their bylaws.
That's a normal transition. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's John Paul Demko, and I'm very much looking forward to working with him.
Yep.
So
Okay. How do the other commissioners feel?
I can go either way. I mean, it's, you know, if anybody wants to come and talk and meet us, I'm all for it. If they don't, that's fine too.
Yeah. Yeah.
If Jen and Steve are taking care of it, that's good enough. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I'm kind of in line with Tony's position as well. You know, we put it out there. If they want to attend, great. But we make ourselves available, give them the opportunity to come and visit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
all right, I can just put an invite out.
Andrew?
I can.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm in consensus with what Jen said. I mean, Jen, if you are having a good back and forth, and there's no like major outrage or anything like that you know that you don't feel that the commission has to put out or anything like that.
Yeah.
You know, that's fine. If there is, you know, you could always say, hey, just come to a commission meeting. You know.
Yeah, I think.
Not a
I
big
think
deal.
I think in the past, Steve or I have had things to address with them. You know, overuse of the field, relocating on the field, and I think at this point we're now addressing it with individual groups when it happens, and we seem to be getting a good response. So
You know, and maybe once we have an update on the state grant funding and, you know, kind of a preliminary plan on when things, maybe that's the time that we would invite the users. I mean, there's going to be several users that would, I'll say, be displaced or impacted or whatever. Maybe that's the time that we could do that.
mhm.
Okay. All right. And again, certainly Little League, you can just offer.
Yeah, I'll send an
offer to
invite to
George.
him for our next meeting.
Yeah, we know that in baseball season, Bill Pettit was Steve's right at his hip. Right, Steve? Yeah.
That's putting it mildly.
Yeah, I know. Okay. All right. Okay, Parks and Rec, Deb.
All right, first, I just want to say George is one of my coaches right now for basketball and seems like a really great guy. And, you know, haven't heard anything from parents that they have any issues with him. So I think he'll be a good fit. And I've talked to
Excellent.
some people and, you know, they speak very highly of him. So I think he'll be good.
Great.
So any questions on my monthly report? Trying to think if I have any updates.
How's basketball going now with the?
Yeah,
COVID.
COVID, coaches.
Really?
I've had several coaches test positive. Some have had close contact. So we're, Jen and I talk every time, you know, I get an email from someone just to make sure that we're relaying to them the proper procedures that they should take. And I emailed all the coaches today their final schedules and just talked about the policies and that we're following CDC guidelines. And, you know, I appreciate that they're reaching out to me when they have questions so that we can try to, you know, address it the best way that we can. So, yeah, I thought last week was gonna be bad, but this week has been awful. And it's been awful for the community center. I had 8 groups cancel this week. So,
Yeah.
this week has been tough. And last week I was missing 2 staff. I don't know for sure if it was COVID, but, yeah, I think we've got a few rough weeks, coming up, so.
That's too bad.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we haven't had to quarantine any teams, which we had to do, which I mentioned in December, so that has been good so far, but I know that Berlin has a lot of, I think they're over 300 cases. So, you know, we're just expect it and just try to handle it the best that we can.
The basketball players, they have to wear masks at all times, right? On the
Yes.
court, playing, practicing the whole time.
Yeah, yeah, and I've in December, I emailed every person that registered, every household, just to stress that that was the policy, and spectators, because there was a concern that people weren't wearing the mask. So, now that my staff is there on Saturdays, I was there last week, and they keep trying to tell the kids, but it's hard when they're running, they fall, and you know, but when they're doing foul shots, they try to remind them, pull your mask up, and you know, we'll do the best that we can with it. It's just, as you know, it's just people, I don't know, they fall. My mask never
Nightmare.
does. I don't really know, but a lot of people it does.
It's a
So,
nightmare. I was at a girls' basketball game at the high school, same thing, just falling down.
Yeah.
The interesting part was they were playing Bristol, and I was sitting with the Bristol parents because I was just there for a short while. One of the Bristol parents was yelling at our players to pull their mask up.
Oh, Jesus.
She kept going, 21, pull your mask up, it must have been driving her crazy, you know, because it just falls off everyone's nose easy.
yeah.
How can
When
it
you run.
not sweat and everything? I don't know how the kids play with it, honestly. God bless them.
Yeah,
Today's
so-
Harper Current, there's that insert with did you see all the pictures in there?
Yeah,
Yeah, every single photograph. I don't think there was a kid wearing their mask.
Right, right,
on their face.
it was down, yeah,
It
right.
was down.
right.
Every single one, crazy.
Debbie, we're allowing spectators in? for
Yes,
the Basketball?
Yep, the Board of Education has given us permission to allow spectators in. And, you know, as with anyone going in the school building, everyone has to wear a mask, so.
Hmm.
And I mean, I was at McGee, I was at the schools last week. There's not quite as many fans as we.
Yeah,
as we
that's what I was gonna
get.
ask.
And they're kind of spread out, so. And people who have been very good when I was there about wearing their masks, so, I mean,
Good.
it's just a way to protect everyone, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know.
I get these emails, and today's email from Dana Farber which I didn't know, so I'll just throw this out. For people that are compromised, like on chemo or diabetes, the CDC regulation is that they isolate for 20 days post-COVID. So if you got COVID today, for 20 days, they should stay away from people. I didn't even realize that. I'm not on chemo anymore or anything like that, so I'm okay. But I didn't realize that it was 20 days for those people. So I think as spectators, like, you know, people always, you know, if they
Right.
had cancer, they'd still go to the games and watch it. I mean, I'm sure they're being more careful now, but yeah, it's 20 days for them. So anyway.
Oh,
Hey, Deb, how about the gym? Are they wearing masks in there now or not?
No, the town policy is that vaccinated individuals do not have to wear masks.
Yeah, no.
I would like to see it, but I do not control that policy.
Mhm.
So people, you know, they're kind of using it at their own risk. Some still do, but most people do not. They'll come in, they don't have a mask on, they work out, and then they leave. So, you know, and if someone ever tested positive, there really is no reason for them to contact us, so we wouldn't even know if that was.
yeah.
Yeah, you used to have to sign in, you know.
Well, even with that, it wouldn't matter. They'd have to contact us to let us know, and.
Oh,
most
that they
are-
have it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's up to that
Yeah.
person. Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
but the groups that come in, they're pretty good about wearing their masks. Like I just was watching the Boy Scouts as they came in, and they all wear their masks, so.
Good.
Good.
Okay, any questions for Deb? Oh, Deb, on the
Yeah.
You were interviewing for a part-time position. How's that going?
Yeah, not too good. Jen and I narrowed it down to 5 people that we thought had pretty good according to their applications and resumes. 3 never responded back for the interview, and one woman, it really wants a full-time position and asked if there was a potential for it to turn into full-time, and I said not in the near future. And the other person said that they have gotten a full-time job already. So I'm waiting on one possible lead, and then if that doesn't work out, I'll just have to re-advertise. But I think people are not looking for the part-time work. They want full-time work, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
So we'll give it another shot, but the people, like, we went through Indeed, and people that were applying had like no experience at all. So really want something that has a little bit of experience to get them in, so that I don't have to just constantly be training someone.
Right.
So,
Okay. All right. That's too bad.
yeah, yep.
All right. Okay. Any other questions for Debbie? Comments? Okay. Thank you. Community and Senior Center update. Jen, I'll start. You can feel free to jump in. So I think the last meeting I mentioned, we went to Wyndham and then we went to Rocky Hill, I think after our meeting. Rocky Hill, Debbie was there, Tina, Jen was there. And it's a nice facility. It's attached to their town hall. It's, they have the town hall and then they have a library there. And so it's all within an area. So it's kind of nicely done. As you walk in, I think the lobby area was nicely done by the same architect that we have, as Wyndham was as well. They have a childcare program, and they have an older gym that they maintained, that they had before. Their Parks and Rec was always part of the town hall with a stage. And, so it's really meeting rooms. They do have a fitness room that they added and a dance room, which is very, very popular. It has the mirrors. That was a nice room, a lot of light, all kinds of, technology and things like that. Smaller center, and but very well run, at least from the looks of things. The Craig Bauman is the director there. He lives here in town. So he's actually, said anytime if we want him to come to our advisory committee, come and help us out with anything that we need. And then tomorrow, we're going to the Meriden Y. So we're more or less finished visiting senior and community centers. So now we're turning our attention to the Y. And tomorrow's Meriden. John Benigni is the executive director. He's giving us a tour. Jen's going, Debbie, Brendan, and Tim Grady, and myself. And so we're meeting there at 9. We'll have a tour. This John Benigni, which would run, if there is a Berlin Y put in as a, center, a Y center, that he would run that. It would come under the Meriden, Berlin, New Britain Y. And he feels, what he told me is that the Meriden Y, the size-wise, is something that he would foresee being the same size as Berlin would need. So a lot of questions. And for that, as Jen put on the agenda, if you have any specific questions, I'd ask you to get them to me. And you can certainly copy Jen and Debbie as well, for Ys. And, kind of think outside the box, because this would be totally different than what we have right now, right? And I have a lot of concerns myself, like finances. I did talk to the executive director of the Waterbury, Cheshire, and whatever else, why that area. And I said, how do you make your money? And he said, it's all childcare. Well, the New Britain, Meriden, Berlin Y does childcare already here in Berlin, using Willard School and maybe another school, I'm not sure. They already have childcare, and they have a summer camp that they use Willard for, which is, very well attended, and there's a great use for it. Well, if they make money on that, and I don't know that, but if they make the money, that money's already in the coffers for Meriden and New Britain to supplement things that they lose money on, like pools. They lose money on pools. So, that's the kind of, I want to understand the financial aspect and how they get their funding and philanthropy and things like that. As well as understanding how would you ever accommodate what our needs are. And we have our statement of needs from both Parks and Rec and Senior Center. And we'll be giving those to John Benigni, who will also be coming to our February 3rd meeting of the advisory committee. So I'd ask all of you guys.
January 20th.
Well,
Oh, no,
February
February.
3rd is when he's coming, right? So I'd ask
That's
you
right.
to please put on your calendar February 3rd. It's at the Board of Ed office. You can zoom in if you wanted to, but John will be there along with his assistant, and he'll be answering those types of questions. And we're to provide him the questions in advance. So with that, if you guys can get me a list of questions that you have, we'll make sure they're covered. I don't know how that meeting will be run. In the past, I've opened it up to people if they wanted to ask our guests questions, kind of limited it, but opened it up to the audience. But I'm not sure Brendan will do that. It might not be that you'd be able to ask a question. So I want to get all questions that anyone has. So please pass me your questions. Just send me an email. You can copy Debbie and Jen.
Hey, Donna, is he related to Brian Benigni?
Brothers, along with Mark Benigni, who's, used to be the mayor. They're all, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mark is my superintendent in Meriden.
Yep.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And
they do use our schools for childcare, right?
Yeah.
And for the camp. Yeah.
So on a Y project, what do we do? We build a building and lease it back to them?
There's
Or they build it and-
there's a lot of different ways you approach it. Could be all Y, could be, if they decided that they wanted to go the Y, and again, the town council is the one to decide. So we're only advisory. But if they wanted to still have, if they decided the Y was the option, then the land, whether or not they'd use the land across from the high school, that could be up, and maybe they decide not to, or two. If they do and they decide to gift it to the Y, that would go towards that $5 million, whatever the value of the land is, to determine if it should go to referendum. If it's under 5 million, it doesn't have to go to referendum. So they may get, if it's under 5 million, they may decide, and again, who knows, but they could gift it to the Y, and the Y could then take over building a brand new Y facility in Berlin. What that would encompass would be part of the questions that we would ask. How do you take care of our seniors? Our seniors have a very active program. They like what they like. We'd be adding the pool element if we built it, senior center, community center, and it would be for Berlin residents. A Y is for all Y members. There's memberships involved, et cetera. Now, the town could decide they're going to pay certain fees of those memberships. But the Y has to come up with its.
Why do we need the Y? What's the bottom line? Why do we need them? What do we?
Well, some people would say you're going to save taxes because the Y operates independent of the town.
And it's been a
they
task
pay
that
tax.
it's been a task that has been assigned to the advisory committee when it was created. It's one of the tasks to explore the option of working with the Y.
Yep.
So the advisory committee has to look at this as an option.
Yeah.
So just out of curiosity, was that specifically work with the Y, or was it work with other public or quasi-public entities that?
No, the actual task list said basically kind of
It's the
look
Y.
into how it would work with a Y building,
All right.
Not necessarily who would build it, who would fund it, what the usage would be, but just look at that idea as a concept.
Got it. All right.
But part of the advisory committee is if we decide that, geez, that is a recommendation that we would make to the council, funding, you have to answer those questions. You know, you're not going to have all the answers, but you got to
Well,
answer the funding
I
and
think that's probably the most
Operation.
important part of the whole
Sure.
thing. Why do you want to fund it and turn it over to let someone else operate it?
right.
All the
So-
constraints that they would put on us.
Well,
Right.
I always go by this, Tony, is that as soon as you turn it over to them, you've lost all rights to
Yeah.
saying whatever you want to do
I
inside of
totally
there.
agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you got to be, this is really, 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 really got to be careful,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
make sure we have all the things, and keep in mind, town council, we could recommend, keep in mind, this is just an advisory committee. It has no binding power at all. Once it goes to town council, they can decide whatever they want. So
Right.
then
No,
it'll
they
be
can't,
up-
they don't
then
have to
it'll-
listen. That's right. That's right.
yeah,
But the thing that I would hope the advisory committee does at some point, we haven't done it thus far, is to go out to the public and say, okay, this is what we've done. These are options that we see. What do you guys see? And try, again, engage the public, but go to certain groups, go to the schools, go to the seniors, go to this group. Yeah, the whole town, but you got to get people out. And, there's been a few people coming to our meetings, few, FEW. We have a town of 20,000 people.
Yep.
And there's comments on Facebook. I try and answer those comments, please come, there's all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, people don't until they want to complain, and that is true, but I think we could do a better job reaching out. Jack Fazzino, town council member, who's a very good communicator, by the way, whether on Facebook or otherwise. If you saw it, was it last week or the week before in the Citizen, he did a good summary of projects going on, talked about the senior and community center. He comes to every meeting as part of the audience, and he's following it through. And he's actually asked some very good questions. We had the state reps come, all 3 state reps came to our last meeting. We talked about funding. Tried to put some pressure, and hopefully that they'll all work together and get something done. But as Kathy Abercrombie, who is very, very knowledgeable about how things work, she said now every rep has a project, and you have to define your project in order to line it up. She has a project that she's been working for Meriden right now. So she has nothing that she can offer to put her name on it. Donna Veach could. Donna was at the meeting, so I'm hopeful, she'll start going at it. She said she would. But you really have to have kind of not shovel ready for bonding, but you have to have it approved by the referendum. The state's not going to grant anything until the town says we're going to move on it regardless. And unfortunately, you're not going to be able to answer a lot about outside funding if it's, town operated until after the fact. So it's taxes. The mayor has supported the Y in the past. He's open to other things, but he wanted us to look at it, and we need to. And a couple of years ago, he did engage the Y, and Deb and Jen can tell you, and Tina, they talked and they came in, and I think from what I've heard is, they pretty much said, geez, we could really not duplicate. We couldn't duplicate what you guys are doing at each of your places.
Mhm.
So that's an issue, so, and, again, it's supposed to be a Berlin community and senior center. So,
Well,
I
the
don't
thing that scares me the most, Donna, is that if the Y takes it over, we would lose a potentiality of having a parcel, not only a parcel of land that would be zone municipal, but then it would it'd have to be taken away and not zone municipal and now be zoned as private, mixed use or something at that point. And then we not only lose that land, so we'd be poorer for anything that we could possibly put on there in the future, regardless if this goes through or not. But also we would be poorer for if it was then built, we would then not have the luxury of being able to running any of our programs or expanding any of our programs, even that the young people like, the older people like. And, you know, it would just be, to me, it would be just a travesty, quite frankly.
Yeah, yep. Right. So,
So I guess
Yeah.
the question is, I mean, how do they, if they can't say they can't duplicate what we have, I mean, what would be the benefit of doing that if the Park and Rec, you know, the community center and the senior center, I mean, are they going to be paying for services there? Just, you know, I mean, if this was a town-owned building like we have now, I mean, I think we'd have more control over it, right? And you could each run your programs the way you want, be it senior center or, you know, Park and Rec. And I don't know how, I mean, I guess the logistics of who pays for what. Like if the senior center wanted to use a meeting room, you pay for it, you know, and stuff like that. How's that all gonna come out in the wash? You know, where the Boy Scouts gonna meet, you know, stuff like that.
right. That's all part of the discussion. So, yeah, no, it would be a major change. And it's something that, you know, we have to look at, but it's the reason why it's being looked at is to save money, save the town's money, the town taxpayers' money. Whether or not they get what they want is another thing, you know, if they go the Y route, but that's what we have to kind of vet out. So, and you know, to be fair, it's significant dollars to build a senior and community center and to operate it. You know, and there are memberships. I mean, even with us, there would have to be memberships for the pool, especially. So, and these newer centers are charging their groups, Boy Scouts included, for meeting rooms because they're new buildings. They got to cover the cost somehow. I mean, they're modest amounts, but even these nonprofits are paying for the use of these community center rooms. Now, whether or not we would do that is another thing, but anyway. So I really do encourage you though, please, 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 I can't say it enough. And please tell your friends, Tony, tell the high school, swim team. They have not been to a meeting other than the Thurstons, have not been to a meeting, for God's sakes. I don't know what it takes. So, and I know we're on tape, so that's it. Everybody come. January 20th is our next one. That's going to be more of a working session, but February 3rd is a very important meeting for people to come and listen, you know, be open, listen to the Y option. So that's, Jen, I don't know, anything else?
About community senior center, no, I just have one more point before we adjourn.
Sure.
I want to just thank Dinesh. Dinesh has decided that his term expires at the end of January, so this is actually his last meeting. And I
Okay.
just want to thank him for, you know, volunteering his time and sitting on the commission, and I hope he feels like he contributed, and, you know, I hope he feels he enjoyed it. So Dinesh, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say that, you know, I really appreciate the opportunity. You know, that was a great experience for me. And, you know, I, you know, definitely see that, you know, all the staff, Jen, Steve, Debbie doing wonderful job. You know, we are lucky to have people like them, you know, from town.
Thank you. We
Well, thank
appreciate
you.
that.
Very nicely said, Dinesh. And hey, thanks for all your time and efforts as well. And
Sure.
appreciate it and your input and wish you well, but don't be a stranger. February 3rd, come to our advisory committee.
I will. Thank you.
Can I just say that at that commissioners, thank you cocktail party at the furniture store with
Bungalow on the app.
yeah, bungalow on the app.
Yeah.
Anyways, Dinesh and I got to talk for about a half an hour and got to
Oh,
know each
great.
other and got to catch up, which you never really get to do at a meeting or whatever. So Dinesh, I'm sorry to see you go already.
Okay.
Dinesh,
Thank you.
Dinesh, please recommend anybody to, you know, to the council, have them apply. I don't know if we have any applications,
Sure.
but please, you know,
I will. Thank
it's
you.
important.
Hey, Tony, were you recommending that we have liquor and hors d'oeuvres at our next meeting? Just
know,
wondering, I don't know.
I'll tell you, it was very nice that night. It was very enjoyable to go around and chit chat with everybody else and all the other commissioners and board members. I actually realized that the town councilor, Brendan Luddy, we actually played midget football together. And he had a
Really?
picture of our team when we were 15 years old on his phone.
Wow.
It's the same. I have a picture somewhere of it, but same picture, and he has it on his phone. It was amazing.
Oh,
So we
that's
got to
cool.
talk about that, and I talked to Greg and Dinesh and Donnie and Andrew. It was very nice.
Yeah, it was good.
And Fazina was there too. He came over and introduced himself to me.
Yep.
He and my daughter went to St. Paul together. So
Oh,
we
yeah.
had, they were always challenging for number one, But anyway, but nice young man, really. I mean,
Yep.
I was
Yes.
impressed by him and also by his notice in the Berlin Citizen. And I told him,
Yep.
just keep doing what you're doing,
I hope they do things like that again, because I think it was well worth it. Not just for the free food and booze or whatever, but to be able to go out and check out that business, because I hadn't been in there before.
Pretty neat, isn't it?
Yep.
It's
Yep.
awesome. It's a little pricey for me, but because there was a picture I wanted, but I think it was like $700.
From what I understand, they have a following from outside Connecticut even, people going online and seeing things. And so they're really,
It's
it'll
awesome.
be a place. I
Yeah,
hope
a lot
they,
of the stuff is eclectic. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I hope they do well.
yeah.
And maybe I'll get a hold of your wife and tell her which picture you really want. I
Okay.
remember.
All right. Anything else from anybody? Okay. Hearing none, can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thanks again. Dinesh,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much.
Yeah.
Dinesh,
Thank you,
thank you.
everybody.
Best
All right.
wishes. Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Everybody, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night, everybody.
Andrew,
Thanks.
I like the way you're ventriloquist there with your picture. Your lips don't move. Anyway.
Yeah.